Dan.
Thanks, Gareth. Morning, everyone. So as Gareth said, my name is Dan Leach. I'm the Managing Director for TDS. We're a local business. I think the fact that we've got Vinci here today and also Paul to talk about Harpers, the resounding message is that, you know, BIM is mandatory. So if you're going to work on government procured projects, you have to be BIM compliant. And I think the upshot of that is that everybody that becomes BIM compliant to work on government work, everybody's going to be doing BIM, you know, regardless of whether it's government work or private work. This is an evolution and it's something that's going to be happening. So I'm here to talk to you today just from an SME perspective about how we've implemented BIM, what we've been doing for the last few years, and just show a few projects where we've actually got some practical experience. So the TDS group is made up of 3 companies. TDS Midlands, which is the core business. We design and detail architectural metalwork and structural steelwork. We have an academy. The TDS Academy was launched about 4 years ago. That was recently relaunched last year as the Construction and Design Centre of Excellence over at Stafford College. And the main focus for that was to give ourselves an opportunity to train up young people and make sure that as they reached our business, they were working in a BIM compliant way and with all of the vocational skills that the business needed. TDS Architectural Solutions is an R&D business. So we're looking at developing new products and new systems and ways of innovations utilising BIM to hopefully give the construction industry better solutions, more standardised solutions, rather than constantly reinventing the wheel. So our mission is to collaborate with better people to drive change so that we all design and construct better buildings and that ultimately fulfil stakeholder aspirations and dreams. So BIM is a big part of that process. Utilising and collaborating and innovating with other like-minded businesses is a big part of our strategy moving forward. So the industry challenges for us, and I'm sure anybody that's in the construction industry will share these challenges. We have increasingly short lead times, so everything's required yesterday and at 1,000 mile an hour. We have a lack of skilled personnel and experience across the sector. Poor information flow. Information is probably at an all-time low now in terms of the quality of information that we're all quoting to and the quality of information that we're all working to. There's a big reluctance to embrace technology and change. So there's a lot of reluctance from businesses and from people that have done what we do over the years to embrace BIM and to learn new methods. There's a huge problem with attitude in the construction industry. There's a massive blame culture, and there's also the ego within the industry that you've got to get over. I think the attitude towards BIM it's been quite slow in its takeoff, and I think that's why the government have ultimately said, you know, it's mandatory, you've got to do it. Bespoke solutions, we're constantly reinventing the wheel. I think the construction industry has got to move more towards the car manufacturing industry, in that if you look at a Mercedes car, there's probably 1 million options that you've got on one standard Mercedes car model. That doesn't mean they all look the same or perform the same. I think we've got to get away from, in the construction industry, looking at construction as a project and start to look at it as a product and try and standardise the solutions that we're providing. And obviously price sensitivity. We're all working in a really competitive market, and for want of a better word, we're all guessing what the client wants, which is a huge problem. So some of the obstacles for BIM, fear of the unknown. So what is it? What does it mean to me as a business? What does it mean to us as an industry? I think there's still a lack of clear definition. So it means different things to different people, different things to different companies. And there's a huge impact on your business to implement it. So for us, we've moved from a conventional 2D AutoCAD platform to produce our drawings into a 3D modelling environment where we had a dip in productivity, we had a dip in efficiency. So that's quite a big impact on a business that everybody's got to go through. Knowledge to implement is a big problem. If you haven't got people that know what BIM is, or you've got to upskill your staff, that can be a challenge. There's got to be an appetite to implement. And again, hopefully the fact that people like Vinci, people like the government and people like Harpers are telling people that unless you work in this environment, you won't actually get onto the project. There's time constraints to implement. So how does your business get new software, new processes and new skills into your business, and how long does that take, and so on and so forth. And obviously there's the cost. Cost is a huge issue for businesses, particularly in such a competitive market. So for us, there's a number of opportunities in BIM. Improved information flow is one. So Stephanie's just shown how information is going to start to flow through the project. So more transparent data exchange, better information at the front end is going to improve things. Transparent information flow, so clash detection. Our models now for steelwork go into a centralised building information model, and that's then run through a clash check process like in Solibri, where they can actually see if there's any problems with the information that you've provided. Are we going to have things that don't work when we get to site, etc., etc. Attracting new talent. You know, this is a big thing for businesses. Young people, we need to entice young people into the industry. And 3D modelling's a bit more rock and roll than 2D drawing. So it is something that when you start to talk to young people, some of the technology that's around now in terms of augmented reality, scan to BIM, which you'll learn about later from Seven Partnership, Oculus Rift and things like that we're seeing now, virtual health and safety, all that sort of stuff. It's attracting young people into the industry. It opens up a global market. So this is the UK are kind of claiming to lead on BIM, but I don't believe we are. I actually think America is one particular country where they're ahead of the game. But it opens up a global market if you are BIM compliant, so you can work on projects anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. Some of the models that we work on now, for example, we'll be working on a project for a company in Yorkshire, and we'll have 3 guys in Telford working on the same model that 3 or 4 guys are working on up in Yorkshire, and it's seamless. Process driven. I think one of the common misconceptions about BIM, because it's building information modelling, people think it's just about 3D modelling. The modelling part it's a process. This is a way of the design team working the way that it should work and operating more efficiently. So depending on what you are, whether you're a provider of a product or a service, it might be if you're an industrial flooring company that all you've got to do to become BIM compliant is be able to exchange information on your product in a BIM compliant way. We need to get the design team working again, and helical stairs is something that I use as a really straightforward example. So helical stairs crop up on a lot of projects. At the moment, the information that we get from the architect and the engineer is a circle in plan. That's the equivalent of giving Madame Tussauds a stick diagram and asking them to build you a Michael Jackson waxwork. It's just ridiculous, really. So getting that information through the supply chain so that we understand what the client actually wants is a critical thing. It also identifies a chargeable service. So there's a commercial opportunity when you start to do BIM to actually charge the client and charge the main contractor and charge your customer for doing it. You know, there's an added value to BIM as a process, and so therefore there's an opportunity actually to put some money on your bottom line. And DFMA, that's the biggest change for us. I don't think Stephanie mentioned it in her presentation, but a lot of these BIM projects now, they're looking to get the information ready. It's going to be designed for manufacturing installation. So rather than a steel fabricator in our instance having to do a set of drawings around a really vague set of information, actually, as BIM starts to kick in, the fabricators and the manufacturers will be given the information. That's what we want. Can you make it, please? Which is a huge stride forward. So for us as a small business, we've invested over £300,000 in the last 3 years alone in Tekla software. Tekla is the software platform of our choice. It's our weapon of choice, if you like. And that's been upskilling the workforce, purchase of software, lack of efficiency and productivity, etc., etc. This is a quick fly through of a project I'm going to talk about, because this is Chiswick Park in London. This is 4 staircases that we did in a BIM compliant way in 2012. We ourselves have been getting BIM ready since 2011, so we were early adopters. This is the fly-through of the actual 3D model that we produced. And I'm going to be using Chiswick as a bit of a case study to kind of run through you guys how BIM worked for us as a business and how BIM worked on Chiswick Park. So moving on to the actual project itself. Case, who are a New York-based BIM coordinator, were appointed by the client, and they actually coordinated the whole project. Arup were the structural engineer, and Roger Stirk were the architect. Our client in particular in this instance was a company called PAD Contracts in Essex, and the total project cost was £70 million, and the project cost to our client was £4.5 million for what is effectively 4 external fire escape scares. So you can't actually believe how much money is involved with some of these projects. Our fee in this particular instance was around about £100,000 for the BIM design. So the way that the BIM process worked on Chiswick, all models were issued on a site on a Wednesday morning. Case actually then coordinated all those models, pulled them into a central building information model and ran class checks. The results were published online on a Monday morning. So you came in, you checked your results, you had a look at what your caseload was. Any technical queries from those results were basically reviewed by the design supply chain. And Case would then review those replies and obviously mark them as closed and resolved or leave them open if there was no answers. So one particular instance we had, on our model, we had a wall palm fixing that was in effect floating in mid-air. It was 70 mil shy of the wall. We checked our model, Arup checked theirs, and we concluded that Arup hadn't actually put the wall finishes into their model. Situation resolved, and we move on to the next stage. So what we learned on that project 3 years ago is that BIM works. We had a 4% design creep on that project, as opposed to typically 25 to 30% as an industry average. The 4% design creep that we had was a conscious cost-saving decision. So the client made a decision it was going to cost £4,000 to actually update the model, but there was a £36,000 net saving from that design change. So even with the 4% design creep, it was a positive outcome from that issue. We minimised EWOs, extra work orders. Changes, modifications are a massive part of the industry. We had none on that job apart from that 4% issue that I mentioned previously. We've improved the existing TQ and RFI process, so technical queries and RFIs, asking the client what they actually want is a huge problem from an administrative point of view. And all information that we worked to was theoretical, so we actually finished the project 9 months before a spade went in the ground, and everything that worked on that project was fitted, and we didn't have any problems whatsoever, so BIM works. I'm just going to skip through the Academy slides because it's not too relevant to what we are now. With regards to architectural solutions, I'm just going to show you a visualization that Seeable did for us, which is, it's been used from our BIM model of a particular product. And this is an example of how we've used the BIM model, not only to design the product, but also to give a visual fly-through of what this, in this situation, this balcony looks like. So BIM can be used for a number of different things. It can be used, obviously, as part of the design process. It can be used from a sales and marketing point of view, in this instance, demonstrating that our product is better than another solution on the market. It can be used for installation purposes, so the site guys that are fitting these kinds of products are actually taking iPads onto site and they're actually able to physically look at the product rather than a set of really technical 2D drawings. Again, it shows that our software, the common sort of data environment, if you like, that everybody's using is an IFC file. So we're able to export an IFC file in Tekla, send it over to a company like Seeable and Seven, and they can produce these very neat fly-throughs and animations that demonstrate exactly what the product should look like, how it goes together, etc., etc. So at the moment, part of Shropshire Construction Excellence is about networking with like-minded construction businesses. We've got a number of strategic partners now, so we've started to look at bringing other people into our offering. So TIR are a reinforced concrete and precast concrete detailing business in Sheffield. They do what we do for steelwork, but for concrete. So we now partner with them, so we can go and actually deliver a project for a main contractor. If they want it in concrete, TIR look after it. If they want it in steel, we do. Seeable, who are a local-based company, we're going to be talking a little bit later. Seeable produced our balcony visualisation for us off our IFC file. And you're going to be finding out a little bit more about Scan to BIM by Seven Partnership. So Seven Partnership are, again, a local business using really innovative, top-of-the-range technology, really, in terms of how stuff's getting surveyed and measured in the construction industry. And Tekla, that's our weapon of choice, as I mentioned before. That's the product that we use to deliver our drawings in a BIM compliant way. And that's me. So likewise, I'll be around afterwards for the Q&A.